Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Australian Survivor, heroes versus villains. That's right, the season may have finished, but there's plenty for us fans to still discuss and talk about. And in one of these off-season topics, I like to normally go into who the players are that I would like to see return for a future season, and I've got 5 players, so it's going to be my top 5 players here for this season, and it may surprise you that I won't have the big 3 from this season in my top 5, so right off the bat, George, Shonny, and Haley, not in the top 5 players that I would like to see go and play Australian Survivor again. I've seen Shonny for 3 times now, love her, knows what she brings to the table. I've seen George play twice now. He is clearly, in my mind, the best strategic player to ever play Australian Survivor and not win the show. And I've also seen Haley play twice, very happy and satisfied with the conclusion of this last season for her. Maybe in a Legends season or a crossover type of seasons with other international survivors, I would like to see them come back and play. But for Australian Survivor specifically, these are my top 5 players from this season that I would like to see come back. And we're going to start it off here with a wild card in the mix, someone that did not even make the merge. In fact, we've got 2 players in my top 5 that did not even make the merge, and the first player is going to be Benjamin Law. Now, Ben came into this season as someone that was in the Heroes tribe, but he kind of approached the game a little bit more like a villain because he wanted to be sneaky, he wanted to do strategic moves, and he ended up making a fake idol. You know, production does not need to plan fake idols in Australian Survivor because they've got people like Ben out there creating fake idols to potentially confuse someone in the villains tribe down the road. But because of the fact that he showed a knack for thinking outside of the box, the heroes were very intimidated by him as a player, and they targeted him very early on as this sneaky and conniving player, and he couldn't find his foothold in the game. He did end up giving us great confessionals. He looked like someone who strategically was thinking outside of the box. I mean, using sign language in the middle of a challenge to be able to win that specific immunity or reward challenge at that time was again thinking outside of the box. And those are the kind of players that I would like to see play the game, because if Benjamin went out there and played the game again, I'm convinced that we will see him do something new and exciting that we haven't seen before. And that's the type of players that I want to give the ability to go back out there and play the game if I was a producer or a casting person on Australian Survivor. Also, Benjamin gave us great confessionals throughout the whole season, and is one of the reasons they went to him so often, for us to be able to understand the story in those early parts of the game. Player number 2, and this is a player that I'm kind of surprised that I'm coming in here saying that I want to see them again, because after their first season, I knew they would come back. And the second season, they kind of fell short and didn't even make it to the merge. But it's Jordy The Joker. I'd like to see Jordy come back and play the game again, because he showed me something new in his game this season. He gave me a glimpse of the potential that he has to be an all-time great Australian Survivor player. And you might say Jordy already is an all-time great Survivor player. I disagree. I think he's an all-time great character on Survivor, but he's a player that has not shown the ability to play within himself, and there was glimpses of him being able to do it in this season. I mean, Jordy's got all of the attributes of someone that would do well in Survivor. He's great at challenges, he's got the comedic value at Tribe, so he keeps the spirits high for people out there, and he's got great emotional awareness and intelligence. That's the reason he wanted to jump off the Simon ship early on in this season, and he knew that Simon was not going to get to the end and probably win and make a lot of friends along the way. So he showed us he's got promise. But then when the swap happened, when he got a little bit of power in his hands and he got that idol, he overplayed his hand badly, ending up going home. But one thing you do know with Jordy, if you put him on a season, he's going to give you entertainment, he's going to give you chaos and excitement, and those are the players that I want to see come back and play the game again. I do think Jordy has got all the attributes of a future Survivor winner, and if I am right about that, you heard it here first, but he needs to rein in the chaos that lives within his mind when he goes out there and play these games, because he's got the skill set. He's just got to trust that there is a time and a process for everything to happen on the game. I mean, Australian Survivor is a marathon, not a sprint, but guess what? He's now been on 2 seasons. The third time he comes out, he's coming out for the win. He's not going to try and be able to prove himself to be out there for a 4th time. I think the first time he played for his return ticket to come back out and play the game again. So I'm excited to see if Jordy does get that call to come back and play in a future season. Player number 3, and this is a player that no one that follows this channel would be too surprised about. It's my favorite player from this season, Simon Mee. Simon, what a journey he gave us this season. You know, he went from someone that sort of attacked the legacy of George a little bit early on in the game. He really targeted George. It felt really personal. This rivalry that he wanted to create with George, I thought was in his own mind because George wasn't the sole reason that he got voted out in his previous season. But you couldn't help but love Simon because he stayed positive, he stayed upbeat, even when he was the Aussie battler, having to work his way from the bottom to the end game. He won clutch immunities at times. He jumped back and forth. He worked with George at certain times when he needed to get ahead in the game and make the votes go a certain way, so he had more of an ability to get closer to the end and then win his way out. And he had great confessionals. I think he was probably the person who was the most entertaining in the confessionals this season. He stumbled his way ass backwards. So just seeing him come back and play for a third time to see if he can finally get it right. Can he finally get it right to get to the end and get some people to want to play the game with him? That in itself will be a fascinating storyline. But like I said, Simon was one of the few people who saw George as the threat that he was this season, and he warned everyone. No one listened to him, and they all ended up going home because they didn't listen to Simon. And ultimately, I think he got the last laugh because Matt and Jerry didn't win. So Simon was fun to watch this season. I want to see the cat back out on Australian Survivor. Number 4, I want to see the champion of the season come back and play another time. Liz Panoff, who just won Australian Survivor Heroes versus Villains. A lot of people will say, well, she's a winner, she doesn't need to come back. I agree, but I also think that if a winner ever wants to come back, they should always have the ticket to come back and play again to try and prove that their win was not a fluke. And I think Liz has got a lot to play for if she does end up coming back and playing this game. So Liz, the first time she played, she admitted she didn't have the biggest strategic game, but she was mentored by 2 of the greatest minds within Australian Survivor, 2 legends of the game in Shani and George. So it would be fascinating to see if she played a third time, if she could be more strategic now that she understands the game a little bit better. Also, she was great at challenges, so we know that she would do extremely well at the challenges again if she was out there. And I think some people may even underestimate her as one of those winners that didn't really strategically dominate the game. They may not see her as the threat that she could be early in the game, and they may want to use her for that power that she has in the challenges. And she was a force to be reckoned when it came to that. Liz also gave us great moments with her resting bitch face as she looked at players when they said, play your idol, you know, David comes to mind, and then saying, yep, she's sure about how she's playing it. She had some great moments in the season. And to be honest with you, when I look at some of the players that have gotten a second chance and came back to play again, I was just less impressed with them, and I feel like I've seen what they can show us on the TV show so far. So I'd like to see if Liz could pull a rabbit out of the hat and do really well if she got that second call to come back and play Australian Survivor again. Hopefully she gets an opportunity on a Winners at War season or an international crossover season, because I do think Australia wants her there to represent in such a season. The last player here on my list that I would like to see come back and play the game again is someone that I was also extremely impressed by this whole season, and it is going to be Sean Hanson, the horse. He didn't really have that nickname this season, but he definitely is a unit when it comes to playing this game. I think that he is guaranteed to make a merge any season he comes back because of the fact that he is such an asset to his tribe when it comes to the tribal immunity challenges. That didn't really translate this season into the individual immunities, and I think that's something he could use to his advantage. If he played the game again, he could say, hey, I didn't really win any individual immunities. It doesn't really suit someone that is as big and has got as much body mass as I have, because a lot of them seem to be endurance based or body weight related, and those things really don't benefit Sean when it gets to the merge part of the game. I really like his strategic mind in the game as well. I thought he really had a great handle on that hero's tribe. He was the leader in that tribe, and he drove a lot of the strategic decisions earlier in the game. So I do think if he does come back, he's got the makeup to be a great strategic player. He's great at confessionals. He's an all-round great guy. I do wonder, though, if they're going to get the right theme to bring him back on, because he clearly was a hero. He definitely lived up to the hero tribe name this season. What would be the potential scenario for Sean to come back and play again? I would bring him back potentially as someone that is an all-star again in the show, or a fans versus favorites season. I think he could fit in really well with that. But those are my top 5 players that I would like to see play this season again. I know I had some snubs there. Like I said, I did not include George, Shani, or Haley. I know Nina's got a lot of support out there, and probably people are going to say you left out Nina in this position. I actually don't want to see Nina on Australian Survivor again. I think I've seen enough of her on the Australian version of the show. I really want Nina to go over and play the US Survivor show. I want to see how she does in that specific spot when she's playing with fellow countrymen of hers. Culturally, I think there isn't as much differences between probably how she lives her life on a daily basis versus what people over there live their life like. So I think that would be interesting to see how she does over in the US show. Anyways, those are my top 5 players that I would like to see come back and play the game again. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. Please consider liking this video. That is the best way to show support, and it costs absolutely nothing. Let me know in the comments below, who would you have chosen to come back and play the game again? But for now, grab your torches, head back to camp. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.